was the king, thought he was great, and then played him the next weekend. The kid had like 36, shot it every time he touched it, and it was, it's just, can't stop them when they get going, and that's really the biggest key, that if he gets going, not trouble.
The two of you are going to have to kind of lean in whenever you're talking.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, not too much, but, and then we'll put
We
this
don't want to get that, we're friends, but not that close.
And then we'll go ahead and put this on you, but I'll lean in whenever I do the sponsor.
Okay.
Do I have to talk through this thing? Can I talk to the side of it?
Try to hit the,
Okay.
because anytime you say
we'll just, you
yeah.
just go and I'll just lean in when you're not, or something.
Okay, yeah, I'll back off when I'm done talking.
All right.
Well, are we good?
Yeah, thanks for everybody who is watching us right now on the YouTube live stream. So, yeah.
Yeah, hello everyone, and welcome to a special edition of Huddle. Pat Hickey here alongside Gordon Engelhart and Chad Lindskog. Usually now is where we give a preview of kind of the wide-ranging topics that we have coming up on the show. But today is different. We welcome in our first in-studio guest and Bosse boys basketball coach Shane Burkhart. So Shane, just thanks for being here. Thanks for taking the time.
Well, thanks for the honor. It's a lot of fun this week, so hopefully we have a lot of topics to talk about.
Oh, we do.
Well, first we want to give a shout out to our Huddle podcast sponsor, Eastland Mall. Eastland Mall is also the sponsor of our Hoops Hysteria contest, and you can visit that contest by going to courierpress.com/hoops. Gordon, we're going to give you one more opportunity here. What's your favorite store at Eastland Mall?
My wife's favorite store is Macy's. I don't really have one, but my wife's favorite is Macy's.
That's good enough. All right, Pat, take it away, man.
So Shane, we had an extended conversation with Andre Thomas about a month ago, just regarding whether or not Indiana should implement a shot clock, and we thought that turned out pretty well, even though it wasn't in person, it was kind of over the phone. But so first Andre, a former Bosse guy himself, and then now you. So there must be a Courier and Press Sports bias towards Bosse, I guess. Either that, or you guys are just a bunch of good guys.
We'll take the good guys. Andre's great, and the 30-second shot clock is something that I really wish that the high school federation would adopt. But there's a lot of people out there that still just don't want it to happen. So we'll just see how it goes. But it would be I think it would make the game just a lot more fun for the boys.
Okay. And 48 hours away from 3A state championship game. Just what's going through your mind?
Sleep. It was really interesting today because we've had a great week. We've had a lot of people wanting to do stories about our young men, and it's fantastic because you're the only one on this stage right now. So it is about Bosse High School, and right now it's about Bosse basketball and the boys that play it. So the last I closed practice today when we actually moved practice to 1 o'clock so that we could have a good practice. And we allowed the media to come in at 3, and I went over to talk to the boys right before I went to speak to the media, and all of them were of the same thing. I really don't want to talk to anymore, and I think they're tired, mentally. So we talked about going home tonight, getting some sleep, and we talked about tomorrow making sure we rest when we're in a hotel. There's a great reason why we're tired, so we can accept it.
How are you guys handling this week? Looking back 2 months ago, you guys were 4-6, kind of struggling. Not a lot of attention on you guys. Some of the players have just said that they felt like it was just you guys. There was no one else kind of in with you guys. And then now, like you said, you got all of the media outlets coming in and trying to tell stories. How are these guys kind of handling such a kind of a turnaround from just a couple months ago?
They're ornery. They're absolutely ornery, and we have not gotten to a point where we've stopped being ornery, which means that we're taking it in stride, which is it's very good at this point. They're very close together. They pick on each other. They have fun with each other, but they are very close. They're a very close group. So it's been easy. At the same time, I think that they understand what's in front of them and the opportunity that they have. So, it's been a great week. It's been a learning experience for all of us. We'll do some things differently if we ever get the opportunity to do it again. But all we can say right now is that it's going as planned.
Marion is your hometown. Does that make it different for you, or is it's just another game? Just you're playing your hometown school, but that's been a while.
Honestly, I want this to be about my boys. I want it to be about the situation that they've gotten themselves into. So I really don't even look at it as the situation is that I'm playing my hometown. My wife and I met there. All my children were born there. My family still lives there. But this is about Evansville boys basketball. That's what we're going to take care of.
And just talk about them specifically. They have a couple of D1 prospects, but they don't play the greatest defense in the world. If you do your sets, you run your sets, you should get good shots. Talk about that, please. And also Blackman and Reggie Jones, D1 prospects, trying to contain them.
Well, VJ is the brother of James Jr. at IU, and James Sr. and I coached together when I was at Marion with some AAU stuff, so we're pretty familiar with him. Reggie Jones is the nephew of Julius Mays that I coached when I was at Marion for the 4 years that I was at Marion, and I'm very familiar with Reggie and his family. First and foremost, they are both fantastic basketball players. We have got to make them go east and west. We can't allow them to get going north and south with the dribble drive. They both have great pull-up jump shots. They're rhythm shooters. We have to make sure that we show balance and we close out constantly. That being said, their leading scorer is the junior named Timmy Level, who can absolutely score from anywhere. He's left-handed. He's a little smaller than the other two, but his stroke is just, it's on point. I mean, he can really stroke basketball, and we're going to have to be attached to him. We're going to have to make sure that we don't allow two of them to get off on us. The perfect game plan is to stop all three of them, but it's high school basketball. That's not going to happen. So we got to try to make sure we limit two of the three, and if we can do so, I think we'll have a chance.
Shane, I remember you telling me before the year, might have been as early as last summer, that you thought this could be one of your team right now could be one of the top teams in 3A. What was that based on?
Well, it's a talented group of kids, and offensively, I mean, we're very talented. We had, as a coaching staff, we had to make a choice. Were we going to try to outscore people, or were we going to demand that they defended? And at the beginning, we were demanding that they were going to defend. They weren't really defending, which is why we were 4-6. And then all of a sudden, and it's funny because, you think about the Wrights game, they scored 54 points on us in the first half. And I'm going in at halftime, and my speech to them at halftime is you guys are playing great. They're just hitting shots. And they're kind of looking at me like, Coach, we're down 17. We just gave up 54, and you're in here telling us that we're playing great. And, I kind of yelled a little bit to get their attention. We go out at halftime, and, Coach Brown, my assistant, Lamar Brown, comes over to me, and he says, look, and I kind of looked down at Wrights, and, they were shaking hands with the guys from USI that were in the crowd. And, they were kind of looking up in the stands, and they thought the game was over. And I brought my kids over, and I made them look down there. I said, there's no respect going on right now. That's not saying that Wrights doesn't respect you or anything like that. Just right now, they thought the game was over. I said, you got to take it at them. They're not going to hit shots this half. And we did. 40 seconds to go in the game. It's a tie game. We run it. Drew Smith pitches it out. Isaiah Dunham short arms it. Long rebound. Eric Bell throws it up, and all of a sudden our season takes off. And, was it that moment that made our season take off? I don't know. Was it the fact that we demanded that they defended constantly? I don't know. All I know is that we're sitting at 19-10. We have won in every way that you can think of, basketball-wise, in the last month and a half. So something's going on, something's right, and you got to just really take your hats off to those young men.
I asked the guys a couple weeks ago, and the sentiment kind of was, we're just going to prove everyone wrong. We're going to get to state. Is that still the feeling? I mean, you've won 6 in a row, and like you said, you've won in so many different ways, in overtime, game winners, blowouts. Oh, what's kind of the mentality, I guess, now going into state now that you've accomplished so much?
Well, if you want to look at everything like that, you're going to lose Saturday. And that's what we keep trying to explain to them, is that, you know, you can break your arm, pat yourself on the back, and 10 years from now, you can think about what you had a chance to do and didn't. So we're constantly reminding them of where we were. We're constantly reminding them of where we came from. The bottom line is that you put yourself in this situation, and they did. They did a great job of putting themselves in this situation. 32 minutes, you know, figure out a way to win, do everything you do to compete.
And if you don't mind, can you talk about your health issue last year and how you overcame that and everything's fine?
Sure. One of the scariest moments I've ever been a part of my life. I woke up Christmas morning and got out of bed, and when I went to step down, my left calf had an excruciating pain in it. And my family, we kind of have a weird tradition, and we have since the kids were little, is that we go swimming on Christmas Eve. And before, when I was at Marion, they had a pool in the school, so we could just go to the school and open it up. And now we rent the Lloyd pool on Christmas Eve, and we go out and we swim as a family. Well, we did that. And so during the day, I kind of just thought, well, maybe I just pulled something. You know, as I jumped in the pool, as we were swimming, really didn't give it a lot of thought. It just hurt really bad. The next day, we had to wake up early in the morning and drive to Marion for Christmas with my family. And so we got up and drove, and my calf just really hurt. And I ended up laying the majority of the time in my mother and father's bedroom because I just couldn't put any pressure on my calf. And so I called the doctor. I'd called Dr. Hamby, who's our team doctor, and made an appointment to get with him on Monday after our shoot around, because we were going to play New Albany. We had to play New Albany, I believe it was on the 27th, if I remember right. And so we're, you know, just picking up the pieces, if you will, and driving back home, and my calf just really started hurting even that much more. Took a couple aspirin, got up, came into the shoot around. When I came into the shoot around, it was to a point where I couldn't really even put pressure on my calf. So I sat at the shoot around with my calf up. We were 6-0 at the time. You know, we were really playing great basketball. So I hopped on the bus. We went to New Albany. At halftime, right shortly before halftime of the New Albany game, I tried to squat down, and my calf became so swollen that I couldn't squat anymore. And when I stood up, it took my assistant coaches to help me stand up. I started to walk across the floor, and this little old lady came up behind me, and she said, "Coach, what's the matter?" And I turned around, and it ended up being Mrs. Collins. Mr. Collins is he's our scorebook guy. It ended up being his wife. I said, "I'm just having a lot of problem with my calf," and she said, "Describe it to me." And so I described it to her, and she said, "You have blood clots." And I said, "I don't have blood clots." I went to the locker room and, you know, coached the rest of the game, got back on the bus, came home. When I came home, I told my wife about it, and we went to the hospital, and I ended up having blood clots. I had, they called it a train. I had one that started behind my leg, and it took up the whole back part of my leg, and then went down through my calf, and then ended at the bottom of my calf. So luckily it didn't get to my lungs, which is, you know, obviously the most severe part of everything. It's just a scary point. It was just a lot of scary times because, you know, you're laying in bed, you have no idea what's going on. Doctor comes in and he starts asking you about your will. He starts asking about who's going to take care of you when you can't make decisions for yourself, and you have a cramp in your calf is what you're thinking, you know. So it just became very scary, became very surreal, very fast. You know, luckily they caught it. I was in the hospital for about 3.5 days. We just got news, I believe it was in November, or it might have been December, that they had finally dissolved, because they didn't dissolve in the first 6 months, which is normally what happens. So right now, I'll go back in April to see Dr. Ziegler, who's my hematologist, and we'll discuss different medicine situations and things of that nature. But you know, right now you just got to count your blessings and understand that a lot of things could have been taken from you. And I mean, honestly, it's changed me as a coach, and I think it's made me a better coach.
How has it changed you as a coach? Can you kind of elaborate on that? Because seems like you guys kind of keep a fun atmosphere from what I've seen in practice. You know, even some of the assistant coaches are joking around with the guys during practice. So you kind of describe your coaching style too.
You're new, so you don't really understand how intense I am and how intense I can be, which is great. And I'm kind of glad you get to see that side of me, rather than, you know, Gordon's seen both sides of me, and it gets kind of tough. That's the first thing, is that on the medicine that I'm on, I cannot allow myself to get my blood pressure up, you know, to a certain point. Now they tell you that it's very odd, because you go to the doctor and they say, welcome to your new normal. And then they say, good luck with your new normal. And you really don't know what your new normal is. But when you start screaming and you kind of see spots, you realize that that's not what you can do. When you are, you know, I like to get out on the floor and defensive shuffle with my guys. And, you know, I like to do some things that just shows them that I'm a part of what they're doing. Can't do it. You know, you can't do it right now. Eventually, you hope to be able to get back to that point, but with blood clots and being on blood thinners, you have to realize that at any time, you know, you could put yourself in a dangerous situation with being hit. You know, with being in a car accident, more than likely I'm going to have to get a bracelet here before long that says that, you know, I am on blood thinners, and that, you know, if I was unconscious in an accident, it would help. It's like a diabetic bracelet. So it just changes your life, and it puts things in perspective. You know, in 2012, I had a great team, and we were really good, extremely talented. But I was a screamer then. I was a motivator more than I was a coach. And right now, you know, the screaming is out of it. So you have to find other ways to motivate. Well, the way that we're motivating these young men right now is we're prepared. And that makes you feel a little bit better as a coach.
Just on a lighter note, I just going through reading the IHSA media notes from, you know, that they do for every sport. In the state finals, I saw something about yourself that people might not know. You like to quote movies. What are some of your favorite movies and quotes that maybe, you know, your players may not understand?
I love the Beverly Hills Cop movies, and
Okay.
I love anything like Die Hard. I love any, you know, my wife calls them shoot 'em up movies.
Yeah.
But I just, you know, it's on you. It's very, you know, you walk out of the bathroom every once in a while and you say, you can't go in there 35 or 45 minutes, and the kids kind of look at you, because that's a Friday quote, so they understand that one, you know, and they just kind of giggle. And, you know, one of my favorite TV shows, which isn't running anymore, was Psych. It was on USA. It was one of the summer programs. And the reason why it was one of my favorite shows is because they always made 90 references. You know, they made the funny references from 90 shows, or they had those people on. And I can remember him having Rocky, Apollo Creed on, and one of the scenes, you know, he was in the car and Apollo Creed was outside. They were arguing about something, and they said something, and he went ding, ding, and you just start laughing, because, you know, that was part of your life. And you know, the Pee Wee Big Adventure movies, you see those silly things, and, you know, these kids have never saw those movies, and, you know, Bad Boys and things of that nature. It's just a lot of fun to kind of, and they'll look at you like, what are you talking about? And we'll have to watch that movie one time and see what's going on. So it's just a lot of fun, and it's another way to attach. You know, I think one of the things that you got to do as a coach is you have to attach with kids. You know, you got to get them first and foremost to trust you. You have to show trust in them, but then you also have to find some type of common ground that allows you to be a part of their life. And, you know, this, in a weird way, this can be a part of it.
Okay. Are your players basically like your children? I saw, I don't remember if it was after regionals or sectionals, but you hugged every single player when they came off the court. Gave them a kind of a big hug. Everyone had a smile on their face. Seems like it's a very kind of strong bond between you guys, almost like a father and son. Is that kind of how you would feel the same way?
I think sometimes, you know, the situation that I'm in at Bosse, you're not necessarily a basketball coach first. You know, sometimes I'm the only male figure that they have in their lives, and then I have to teach them. They have to teach me how we're going to figure out the trust factor. And so when you dig in, when you dig in and you make yourself a part of their lives, you have to be there for the bad and the good. You have to show them that you're not running away, because sometimes that's what they're used to. And so, I think it's really easy for me. I think sometimes it might be hard on my kids, particularly Bo. He struggled a lot with certain things that I did, because I would allow these kids who I said were like my sons, I would allow them to get away with things that I would never allow Bo to get away with. And so that was a great teaching moment for me as well, with Eli being in the 8th grade and coming to Bosse next year. He's 100% going to be a part of what we do. I've been able to kind of grow from that situation, but you have to embrace kids if you're going to be in this business and be a part of if you're really wanting to be a part of these kids' lives, you have to embrace them, because they're all different. And one of the things that I always tell them is I hope you go to college and play college basketball. I want you to graduate. I just want 2 things from you. If you make it big, or if you're a lawyer, a doctor, whatever, I don't want your money. I want 2 things. I want you to call me when your first kid is born, and I want you to invite me to your wedding. That gives me the opportunity to kind of have closure with each individual kid, and it also lets them understand that it doesn't matter if I'm 60 years old, or if I'm 40 like I am now, or 30 back when I started. It just gives me the opportunity to show them that I'm not going anywhere, like I told them. So thank you. That was a really cool question. Thank you for giving me a chance to answer that.
One thing back to basketball, just talk about the tradition. Of course, Bosse hasn't won a state since 1962. Marion's won 7. Talk about putting, you said after the semi-state, you brought the kids back and showed them the trophy case. Just talk about that and a chance to make history on Saturday.
Well, that's the first thing we did. Everybody kind of was wondering why it was so important for me to get back to school before the kids were too tired to listen. And, I just kept saying, we got to get back to Bosse. We got to get back to Bosse. And the coach was like, let's enjoy this a little bit. I said, I want to enjoy it, but we got to get back to Bosse. And took them out to the hallway, and, you look up at the hallway, and you do see the tremendous tradition. There's trophies everywhere, all state pictures everywhere, and there's 3 state trophies, or 3 state pictures. Please know that when I'm saying this, I mean nothing about it. Bosse's tradition in the 40s, 50s, and 60s is completely different than what it is now. And there isn't any way to solidify what Bosse represents now as a school other than us winning this thing, or someone down the road winning it. Because our school is represented in a different fashion now. And that's very important to me. It is very important that my kids understand that right now, you have the opportunity to do something and to kind of change, if you will, the way that Bosse is perceived and looked at. And it's a great honor.
And just one other thing, I talked to coaches about this. When you're playing a state championship game, it's like, in a way, you have to almost step back, not to be humorous, but it's just another game. Because they're wrapped so tight, they aren't going to be able to do anything. So you want them to be psyched out of their minds, but relaxed at the same time, if that makes any sense. To go out and have fun because it's supposed to be fun, and not, it's like the world won't end if they lose the game on Saturday.
I call them non-negotiables. And we talked about it today, right before we left. We had a packing list, and they look at me like, why are you giving me a packing list? And I said, well, I don't want you to forget your toothbrush or your underwear or some of the small things, and they giggle, and then I said, well, here's the situation. Here's what we're going to do tomorrow, and I'll share this with you guys. Tomorrow we're waking up. We got to be at Bosse High School at 6:15 a.m. in the morning. We're going to have a bag check at 6:30. We're going to load at 6:45. Non-negotiables. You got to be there. Not your time, my time. When we get on the bus, your time. You can have those 3 hours that it takes to get to Indianapolis. When we get off the bus at Indianapolis, we are going to something that I think is extremely important. The Kiwanis banquet that's an honor. And when I was on the coaching staff at Marion and we went there, it was something that I promised my dad that we would get to again. Kind of cool thing. So we're going back, but non-negotiable. Can't, it's my time there again, So we're going to get in, and then we're going to go to practice at Tech, hour and 15 minutes. We're going to go back to the hotel room, and then they have 3 hours. A friend of mine from Marion, my best friend Nick Wyke, is buying our team dinner. So we're gonna walk downtown and we're gonna go have team dinner, their time. At 8:30, it's non-negotiable again. So what you do, really, Gordon, is you take away all opportunities for the sequences of events that could hurt, help, or you just take it all away from them. And you don't do it because you're trying to be mean. What you do it is you allow them to enjoy every second on terms that they probably wouldn't necessarily think of. But again, you're right. I mean, I almost died last year. You have to put all that in perspective. I mean, Coach Thomas is going through a health scare right now. You know, those young men from Griffin, you have to put everything in perspective. When you go out at 5 o'clock and that ball is tipped off, it's a basketball game. Win or lose, you're always going to have these memories. And you're always going to have what you've helped Bosse High School do, which, you've helped them put themselves out there. National Honor Society kids, 3.0 kids. You've done everything the right way. So it's going to be an enjoyable moment, and we're just going to allow them to sit back and embrace it. I'm sorry, I'm really air. I can talk, so you can shoot off anything you want, but I can go. So thanks.
Well, we want to end it on that?
I think so, yeah.
Sure.
All right, I think
That's
that's a wrap. Thanks again,
Thanks,
Shane, for
Coach.
doing this.
Thank you guys for having me.
Our listeners, and if you missed it, this will be on later tonight on our website. But for myself, Gordon, and Chad, we'll see you next time.
Thanks, Coach.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.